You know, when we think about CPR, we usually picture those intense scenes from movies, right? But what if I told you the biggest mistake you can make isn't doing something wrong, but doing nothing at all, even for just a few seconds? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a hidden danger in CPR that is, quite literally, the difference between life and death.
So let's just start with a question. In that chaotic, high-stakes moment of a cardiac arrest, what could possibly be more dangerous than, say, putting your hands in the wrong spot or not pushing deep enough?
The answer is a complete stop, a pause, even a short one. You see, those few seconds when the chest compressions stop, that's not a break. It's a moment where everything you're fighting for can be lost. And understanding why that is, well, that's the key to truly understanding how to save a life. To really get why a pause is so lethal, we've got to go right back to square one. The second someone collapses from cardiac arrest, a clock starts ticking. And believe me, it's not just an emergency. It is an absolute race against time.
Okay, first things first. A cardiac arrest is an electrical problem. This is so important. It's not a heart attack. That's more of a plumbing issue, a blockage. In cardiac arrest, the heart's whole electrical system just goes haywire. The pump shuts off. And just like that, blood flow to the brain, to every vital organ, it just stops completely.
So then, what are we actually trying to do with CPR? Here's a huge misconception. You're not trying to restart the heart. That's a job for a defibrillator. Your compressions are a manual override. You are becoming the heart. With every push, you are physically forcing blood to the brain to keep it from dying, and you're also pushing blood into the heart muscle itself, buying absolutely precious time.
All right, now that we get the goal, let's zero in on the villain of our story, the pause. It feels like a break for the person doing CPR, but for the person on the ground, it is a catastrophic failure. This is the invisible threat we're talking about.
Which brings us right to the million-dollar question from all the research. What is actually happening in the body during those silent seconds that makes it so unbelievably devastating for survival?
And the answer is, in a way, shockingly simple, but it's also incredibly profound. It all comes down to one single thing: pressure. Building it and keeping it. Without that pressure, nothing else you do matters.
To make this crystal clear, we're going to use an analogy that just makes perfect sense. Priming the pump. Think about one of those old-fashioned water pumps, you know? You can't just crank the handle once and expect water to gush out. Nope. You have to pump it again and again to build up enough pressure to get that water flowing. Well, CPR works in the exact same way.
Now, there's a fancy scientific name for this whole priming the pump idea. It's called coronary perfusion pressure, or CPP. Basically, that's the pressure that actually shoves oxygen-rich blood into the heart muscle itself. If you can't build up enough of that CPP, the heart has almost zero chance of ever starting again on its own.
So let's break this down. With your first few pushes, you're just starting to build that pressure. You're priming the pump. As you keep pushing hard and fast, the pressure finally gets high enough and blood starts moving where it needs to go, to the brain, to the heart. But the second you pause, poof, all that pressure you worked so hard to build is gone instantly. And when you start compressing again, you are right back at square one, starting from absolute zero.
And if you need a visual, this is it. This chart lays it out perfectly. With continuous compressions, you're keeping that vital blood flowing. But a pause of just 10 seconds, that's maybe the time it takes to switch rescuers, and look at that. The flow plummets to nearly zero. It's like slamming a valve shut on a pipeline.
Okay, so we've geeked out on the science, but what does this actually mean for the patient? Let's connect this loss of pressure directly to a person's real-world chance of walking out of the hospital.
I mean, the difference is just night and day. Without pauses, you maintain blood flow. You keep the brain and heart getting the oxygen they're desperate for. The chance of survival? Way higher. But with frequent pauses, the blood flow stops, those organs are starved, and the survival chances, they just plummet.
There's a quote from the research that just hits you right in the gut. Each pause in compressions is a moment the brain and heart are starved of the oxygenated blood they need to survive. It's not a break. It's a moment you are actively losing the fight.
And the numbers on this are just staggering. Frequent or long interruptions can slash the chance of survival by as much as 50%. Let that sink in for a second. You could be doing everything else by the book, but if there are pauses, you could be cutting that person's chance of making it in half.
So, what do we do with all this? This brings us to the most critical part of this whole explainer, the single takeaway that can directly translate into saving more lives.
It all boils down to a simple, incredibly powerful mantra. Minimize interruptions, maximize compressions. Every single second that your hands are not on that chest pushing is a second that the patient is losing.
So here's your mission should you ever find yourself in this situation. You push hard and fast, between 100 and 120 times a minute, and you do not stop. If you have to switch out with someone else, you make that switch seamless, like a pit crew, under 5 seconds, because every single compression matters.
So I'll just leave you with this. Now that you know the real enemy isn't just the cardiac arrest itself, but the silence, the pause between compressions, how does that change the way you think about CPR? It totally transforms it, right? It's not just a set of actions anymore. It's a continuous, relentless effort where the most important, most heroic thing you can possibly do is to just keep going.